$115.9 billion is the annual budget next year. And you're talking about a guy whose professional experience is advising people that have a negative net worth. All right, we're back, man. It is so good to be back, baby. Oh, it has been a few minutes, maybe 3 months, something like that. A full quarter, 13 weeks. Here's the thing. I got bored. I got over it. I didn't want to do it. I said, I'm not doing podcasts anymore. I'm out. But you know what? The people need me. There's been a lot of things that have happened in the past 13 weeks. Okay. A lot of stuff. And I feel like it is my duty to tell the people what's really going on. Where do I start? We had an election last week. Among many other places, New York City has decided they have a new guy in charge. A new guy. They want to try a new thing. They said, hey, you know, we've done this other thing. We've done it for too long. And we want something else. This 34-year-old guy who wants to create a socialist society in New York City, a democratic socialist of America. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about what's going on. So you got a 34-year-old who has grown up. By the way, I just turned 30 a while ago, within the past 13 weeks, which means I'm just now getting to the point where I'm like allowed to start having opinions, preferences, maybe. So I know what this guy's going through. He's had the last 25 years of his life. He's seen this country grow its GDP at 2.8%. You know what happens when you grow your country at a 2.8% GDP? People don't get very happy. Okay. That's not very good. GDP growth is good because when GDP grows, everybody's standard of living goes up. When everybody's standard of living goes up, people are happy. So we've had this guy who, since he's 9 years old, has seen less than 3% GDP growth. And mind you, what has happened in the last 25 years, specifically the last, 18 years since the Great Recession, we have printed more money than the last 2,000 years combined times two. Okay? 2/3 of every dollar in your pocket right now has been printed since 2007. That's insane. Okay? What happens when you just print money? When you just turn the money printer on, just print dollars out of thin air? Everything goes up in price. Assets go up in value. So what does that look like to you, the normal person on the street? Oh, my house went up. Wow, I made a great decision. I'm a really smart financial person. What happens at large across an entire economy? This thing called wealth inequality. It's real. It's measurable. And it's not by mistake. Everything we have done in this country for the last 25 years has contributed to wealth inequality. We've printed more dollars. We've taken interest rates to zero. We've increased government outlays. Every single thing you can possibly imagine. It's been like this cocktail of wealth inequality. And we want to keep doing it. So, okay, 34 years old, elected the mayor of the single most important city, the most important financial institution in the world, New York City. And his exposure to the way that things get handled in this country is the rich get richer and the poor never get going. 2024, last year, more people than ever in the history of the United States went to Europe last year. More people than ever are on food stamps. It's the same world. It is the exact same world, two different realities. So what do they tell you to do? How do they tell you to fix this? I never went to business school, but I'll tell you exactly what they tell you. Okay. Here's the Democratic Socialist of America playbook in like 2 seconds. Okay. GDP growth is low. we need to fix GDP growth because a better economy makes everybody happier. How do we do that? Well, I don't know. The biggest input into GDP growth is consumption, spending. You and me spending money makes the economy go round. Okay. 70% of GDP growth is consumption. 70% of GDP, I guess I should say, is consumption. So how do we, speed up the economy? How do we make it better? We got to get people to spend more money. Okay. If you go on Twitter, there's all these people making these arguments that, hey, we cut food stamps, the government shut down, right? We turned food stamps off. 40 million Americans are now not able to get their food stamps. That's bad for the economy. Why is it bad for the economy? Because for every dollar that you put into food stamps, $1.80 goes back into the economy. How that math works, I have no idea, but that's what everybody says on Twitter. So if you believe that, you get more money into the hands of more people, the economy spins faster and faster and faster, and everybody's quality of life goes up. How do you do that? You tax the rich. Why do you tax the rich? People who make a lot of money have the highest marginal propensity to save it. Saving money is a net detractor in GDP growth. Why? I made this money. I stuck it in the bank. Nothing happens. No economic activity was generated. So what do? What do they teach you? Keynes. They teach you, let's tax the rich. Let's move that money from people who are going to save it otherwise. Let's transfer it to those who have the highest propensity to consume, the poor. They're going to spend it. You spend more money, the economy goes faster and faster and faster and faster, and that's how they're going to solve this problem. Here's the thing. That's what we've been doing. That is literally what we've been doing. We've been printing money. We've been taxing people. We have a bigger government than we've ever had. And it's only making things worse. So you have this guy in New York City who just got elected. And here's the problem. I think this is actually legitimately the issue, okay? Because that argument makes sense on paper. And that's what a lot of people believe is going to solve these problems. But here's the issue. First off, we have the internet. The internet is a terrible thing for people who don't know otherwise any better. The internet makes people unreasonably ambitious. It just does. You get exposed to these ideas you shouldn't know anything about. You get exposed to these lifestyles you shouldn't be able to see. 300 years ago, people were driving around. They didn't know what anybody else did except for the 18 people that lived in their village. That was it. You could live around the people. You could see the people who lived in your village. There was, a few people who were the royalty, the upper class. There's a few people at the bottom. And that was all you knew. You didn't know what it was like to live on some foreign island in Greece. You didn't know what it was like to live in the desert. You didn't know what it was like to be a fisherman. You didn't know what it was like to be a farmer. You just did what everybody else did around you, and you thought that's literally how everybody else operated. Imagine being around in the 1600s. Do you think that anything was different than other than what you saw in front of you? You didn't have imagination. No, that's just how life was. And honestly, maybe it was better. Problem was we weren't very innovative. Quality of life didn't change a lot for a really long time. We were stuck in the Stone Ages forever. Okay. And then all of a sudden we got the internet and we started getting ideas. We started thinking that we could make a difference. Maybe that is a good idea. Maybe I'm a terrible person. I'm a pessimist. But you have to understand that there is a difference between vision and reality. What was this guy's job before he got elected? So Ron, job before mayor. He worked as a foreclosure prevention housing counselor in Queens. He also previously served as a campaign staff or manager for other candidates, which gave him grassroots organizing experience. So here's a guy who had the internet and got ambitious. Now he has a vision. And is he going to be able to turn that into reality? Look, there's some obvious headwinds. I don't know. It's going to be tricky, but this is the danger of the internet. That's such a crazy way to say it, but it's kind of true. I mean, this dude wouldn't have run for office 300 years ago. He wouldn't have known it was a thing. He's going from advising people, foreclosure prevention counselor, advising people who are on the brink of disaster. This is who this man is. This is what his professional experience is. Advising people who are on the brink of personal financial collapse. And now he is going to be in charge of the world's most important financial center, managing hundreds of billions of dollars in a budget. $115.9 billion is the annual budget next year. And you're talking about a guy whose professional experience is advising people that have a negative net worth. The most important decisions in the world are made in this place. The most powerful people in the world live here. Look, I don't know what's going to happen. I guarantee you that capital moves a lot faster than politics. And we're going to see what those people decide to do with their lives, the richest of the rich. You know, something like 40% of all revenue, tax revenue, is created by the top 1% there. It's just crazy. Just crazy. This is going to be really interesting. An experiment. This is an experiment, which is fantastic. We've been doing experiments for 249 years. I'm so excited. We get to see another one. That's what's going to happen. It's true. They said it was an experiment 249 years ago, and we're going to get another one in the year 2025. Our Lord and Savior. Wow, goodness gracious. Okay. Here's the other thing that's really interesting. I think that, like, here's how we make these decisions. You know, what I think that people are not okay with, certain people are not okay with the fact that there is usually a very small select group of people who have all the influence, who have all the money, who have all the power in a society. In a perfect capitalist society, those people are elevated to use their talents for good, for the betterment of society. That's how it was designed. That's how it's been done. Okay. What is the most important thing that Bill Gates did? It's not that he's going to donate 99.9% of his net worth to charity. No, it's the fact that he invented Microsoft, and Microsoft made your life better. That is literally the most important thing that Bill Gates could have ever done. And that exists because a capitalist society allowed it. Now, when you live in a democratic society where you hold elections, people don't make decisions by committee. I think that's a really important thing that not everyone understands. We do not make elections by committee. We make decisions at the individual level and then aggregate those decisions and live with the results. In other words, if we all got together and we sat down, not the politicians, I'm saying all the citizens, sat down, got together, discussed our issues, discussed what we wanted to change, came up with a solution, and put somebody in charge of making that solution happen, do you think we would get the same outcome compared to if we all individually went home, assessed our own lives? And by the way, people are historically the worst at assessing their own life, making objective observations about their own personal situation, whether it's emotionally, relationally, financially, professionally. People can't figure their own selves out. But mind you, let's go home, sit in our bedroom, make an observation about our own life, what we see want to change, and then make a voting decision without consulting anyone and add up those decisions together. That's how we make election decisions in this country. I think we would have gotten a different outcome because now we're exposed too much because we have the internet. So people have ideas. We're exposed to far too many ideas. And we have to have an idea that's going to independently motivate a sufficient group of a voter base to be able to gain power over them. So what do we end up with? Extremely radical ideas on either side. You hear it said all the time, well, most people are pretty moderate. And it's probably true. But think about the system that we have. We have to make decisions independently and aggregate those decisions. When people make decisions by committee, they make much different decisions than they do by themselves. There is no responsibility you have to take over your vote. You don't have to report to anyone. You don't have to tell anyone. But the second you start to realize that you are responsible for making decisions for a community, and you make those decisions in committee with others, all of a sudden the outcomes change dramatically. It's kind of messed up. I don't know. That's what I was thinking about. Are we going to be able to make decisions like in the middle ever? Maybe, possibly. I don't know. Here I am just talking. Nobody listens to me. What a great time to be alive, though. It really is. Hey, the stocks keep going up. We have the world's greatest supply of fresh water. We're richer than we've ever been. Wow. Wow. What a time to be alive. I hope that New York does well. I'm not going to move there. I'm over New York. I kind of decided the last time I lived there, which was 8 years ago, I was like, you know what? I'm never moving back to New York unless I become super rich or something. And now I've kind of decided maybe I'm just never going to move back to New York ever. You're not designed to just live in a sardine box crammed on top of each other. People make weird decisions there. People make weird decisions when they're emotionally charged, and people get emotionally charged when they're surrounded by other people all the time. I mean, New York is just nuts. You're constantly at a 3 or a 4 all day. You can't just chill. Whatever. And I don't know why there's so many people who don't even live in New York that are so affected by this. They're so charged by this election. It's really interesting. Politicians they're like the new celebrities. You ever think about that? More about a politician's life than you do about, I don't know, Reese Witherspoon. We don't really do movie stars anymore. We do politicians. That's who trends on TikTok. We're not supposed to know all this stuff. I'm just telling you. We are not supposed to know all of these things that happen. I legitimately just think it's bad for you. Okay. How about I can just live my life and be blissfully unaware of all the stuff that happens? And maybe honestly, most of us would be better for it. Everybody gets super worried when Trump's elected. Everybody gets super worried when Zoran is elected. Why don't you just close your eyes? Then you can open them. Write down the 5 things that you're scared are going to happen. What are you so worried about? Put it in a box and then open it up a year later. Say, did my life really change because this person was in power? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe I should just be super unaware of everything all the time because I would be way happier. Well, that ends my TED Talk for the day. For the night. It's actually night. I'm tired. This is what happens when I get tired. I'm going to do this now every week, I've decided, because I've taken off. So I'm going to do this every week until I get bored of it. And then when I get bored of it, you're going to know because I'm not going to do it anymore. So this is the first week. This is the comeback. We'll see how it goes. We'll just keep going. Yeah. We'll do this one and then we'll do the next one and we'll just keep going. Maybe I'll get some guests. Maybe I won't. I don't know. Maybe I'll get some interesting people to listen to. Some opposing viewpoints. We will see you guys later. Good night.